Dear friends, it's the 28th of January, and the theme of today's Stas Talk, that's what I'm going to call them now, Stas Talks. The theme of today's Stas Talks is, first and foremost, the perception of Germans to Russians. You know, even though we didn't exterminate the Germans back, by the way, let's get it, start off with this. Every German that's alive today in Germany is alive because we're not Europeans. We own a third of Europe, but we are not like you. So otherwise, we would have exterminated all of you to the last child back in 45. But we didn't. Matter of fact, just to show what Russians are as opposed to Americans and Brits who are firebombing your cities, 5 out of 6 million dead German civilians were dead from Western firebombing of every single German city. For some reason, I only remember Dresden, but it was every German city. Look it up if you don't believe it. And do a whole separate issue on firestorms. So anyways, on that issue, we didn't exterminate you. We could have. We had every right. 20 million of our civilians died because of you and your little buddies there in Europe. And all those little buddies have gone right back to being the little Nazi pricks they are, with the exception of Hungarians. The Hungarians always did have a hell of a lot more wisdom than the rest of Europe. So, to that point, it took almost 30 years, maybe even more, for when Russians heard German speech for that little tickling the spine, a little constriction of the spine not to happen. They ought to take Germans and accept them as normal people, not possible blood enemies. All that's going away very, very quickly right now. You know, your leopards, that your idiots in government that you support, and you support them by A, you voted for them, and B, you're not overthrowing them. And since you're not getting rid of them, you are supporting them, even if you're just sitting on your arses and mumbling evilly against them. Oh, how they've ruined my life. But since your ass is still planted squarely and you're comfortable, even if it's somewhat cold or overpriced heating apartment, your inaction supports them. Less than 10% of the German population were party holders of the Nazi Party. You know what? The bombs that were falling didn't give a damn. They weren't checking for IDs. They're taking out everybody just the same. And right now, Russian opinion of Germans is going south real quick. All that memory, genetic memory, of 1,000 years of fighting Germans. As an example, we had 2 principalities in Livonia back in 900s, 800s, 1000s. They were both exterminated by German crusaders. They were sent there to fight the pagans, and they exterminated 2 Christian principalities. You think we forgot that? We haven't forgotten that. That was 1,000 years ago. You guys think we forget? You're stupid. I don't know how else to put it. When we speak of our ancestors, we speak of them as if they're alive, and it's us. It's all the way across. We have genetic and we have cultural memory. To the first days, from the first days to the last days. And our last days are not even close to coming. Yours is a big question. Because when we come back, and we will, to Berlin, which we took 3 times in less than 300 years, we take Berlin a 4th time, it's going to be one of 2 options with Berlin. We'll either burn it to friggin' basements, or we'll keep it. But there ain't going to be any Germans left there in that Slavic city of Berlau that became Berlin. It ain't going to happen a 5th time. Let me explain that to you. If you haven't figured this out yet, you had best wake the hell up. We're going to take your leopards and we're going to burn them. And we're going to burn the Ukrainian crews in them. We're going to exterminate them, just like we've exterminated everything else you pricks have thrown at us so far. And you know what the one thing that most Russians are sad about? There are no Germans yet in those tanks to burn with those tanks. And when they do come, and you guys are stupid enough to do it, we will burn those tanks with the Germans in them too, and send you to your ancestors under some forest that will grow. Since there's German corpses still littering all over Western Russia and Belarus. So if you're stupid enough to sit on your arses Even after even after your foreign minister has effectively declared war on us. Maybe she was too stupid to realize it, or maybe she did it on purpose. But your government is the government you deserve because you don't do anything about that government. Because you voted that government in. That is say, oh, the government doesn't speak for us, bullshit. Bullshit. That excuse doesn't fly. That excuse didn't fly in Nuremberg. There won't be a Nuremberg. Trust me, there won't be another Nuremberg. There'll be scorched earth. We're not those Russians that believed in brotherhood. And we're not the Tsar's Russians who believed in that honor of all people and all that. We're the Russians that have lived through 2 world wars plus 1,000 years of your other bullshit. We're the Russians that remember everything. It ain't going to be that. It's going to be vengeance. 1,000 years worth of vengeance coming your way if you start this. And you're starting this. You're inches away from sending Bundeswehr soldiers, like the rest of NATO. It's going to be scorched earth. So from Sula to the Rhineland, to the Rhine, it's just going to be one scorched earth. You and the Poles are going to get it big time. And again, don't really give a damn where you stand on politics. If you don't, your only way out is to stop your government, whatever it takes. But most of you have nothing to take, to give to that effort. You'll go like sheep, and then most of you will die here like sheep, and then your families will suffer. Because when we come across, and we'll come like a friggin' wave of nature, a storm front. We've burned over 1,200 tanks in Ukraine in less than a year, and we're not barely fighting. You're looking at less than 10-15% of the Russian force, second-rate equipment. The first-rate equipment's starting to arrive. The rest is waiting for you to come from the Balkans, the Baltics, and from Poland. And that's for the Baltic peoples. Once this war starts, well, first of all, you're going to have a civil war because most of the Russians in your territory sure as hell not going to put up with you fighting a war with Russia. So you'll instantly have a civil war. You'll be starting concentration camps and mass executions, which you're also good at. The Latvian 22nd SS Division was really good at murdering women and children. In fact, they were so good, Hitler was sending the Jews and others from Berlin to be shot there. Because your subconscious didn't have a brake on it. Problem why they opened up the gas chambers and concentration camps, because the SS, the actual German SS, had a massively high suicide rate. Because shooting children actually worked somewhat on the psyche of those Nazis, to the point that they just decided to swallow a bullet and face themselves in the mirror. But you Latvians, Lithuanians, Estonians don't have a conscience. You didn't have any problems with murdering children. You're very efficient. I mean, you think we forgot about that? Hardly. We've forgotten nothing. We may be forgiving you, which I still don't understand why my forefathers forgave a lot of you. But this time when we come through, there's only going to be Russians left there. So take a good look at your government and understand you have signed a suicide pact. Death by Russian. That's what you've signed on to. You better start thinking real deep and hard where you think your future is going to be in the next 3 months. It ain't going to be in 5 years or 10 years. Your future is going to be decided in the next 3 to 4 months, whether you as a race exist or you as a race are part of ancient history that my grandchildren will be still reading about. Because Russia will still be here. You? Not really. You have no idea the shitstorm you're starting. Understand another thing. President Putin, Foreign Minister Lavrov, and the rest of the government are not nearly as militant as most of the Russian population is right now. If for some reason you ever got rid of them, you'll be remembering them with very fond thoughts for whatever little short time your existence still will still remain on this earth. So just understand that. The vast majority of the Russian people are much more militantly inclined against you and the rest of the scum in Europe than our government is. So keep at it. Keep at it. You're on the brink of extinction. You'll have a zero carbon footprint very soon, because most of Central and Western Europe is going to be a shithole, third world shithole at best, and we're basically already a second world shithole. We'll help you finish that journey into a ruined, failed states I'm going to make sure it takes you 200-300 years to climb out of your asses, and if you're a new dark age, before you're ever going to threaten us again. And your masters are going to laugh all the way to the bank. Except, depending on how far they pushed, Washington and New York and the rest might not exist very soon. Especially basically from Washington to New York, everything will get exterminated. There won't be any life in that area. Ain't gonna be Fallout 4 or Fallout 3. It's going to be just a dead zone. So keep it up. You're almost there. Almost there. Go with God, if you actually believe in him, and most of you don't. Too bad.